Welcome. It's Theresa Croft with another edition of the Kingdom Mentor podcast with the Identity Series. This is always an exciting episodes when I get to sit down, have a cup of coffee with the influencers of today, with those in the marketplace, ministry, moms, wherever they are found with their voice. And I get to just discuss life. So it is my honor. Will you please help me welcome Kathleen Scrivner? Hey, Kath.
Hey, T. Hey,
See,
T.
we go back. Kathleen Scrivner, mom, everything. But let me just share. You're going to just get to enjoy. No, I'm talking to the audience. We're going to have a cup of coffee together. And that might mean we catch up because do you know we've known each other? It's going on 30 some years, 3 decades. So let me explain, Kathleen. Most people know or don't that I used to be a professional golfer. I used to be a collegiate golfer. And Kathleen, she probably doesn't know this, was always one of my favorite people on tour. I don't know how to say that. I had certain people that I just like that girl, you know? So Kathleen definitely was one of them. Kathleen made it further than I did. What'd you do? You make it to the LPGA, right?
No, I actually didn't qualify. I went to the qualifier, but
okay, well, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
But let me tell you, this lady from Stanford was all American, all everything when it came to golf. She now has been married for 33 years, has three amazing children. 2 of them have given her grandkids. I'm really jealous about that. But other than that, hey, Kathleen, welcome. I'm so glad just to have coffee with you and just talk about your voice. And really, I know you have a message that you want to share. So thanks, Kathleen, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Give our audience a little bit of your backstory from golf to where you are now. Just a backstory.
Oh, golly. Okay, T, how far back you want me to go? So
well, let's go back to we were in college together. Let's go back to college golf because golf definitely for both of us played a huge role. So let's go golf.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to back up just a little bit before that because when I was early teens, I was told, hey, if you play golf and you play well, you can get a golf scholarship. And that sounded pretty cool. Yeah. And I'm the youngest in my family. And I was the only one actually having that opportunity to actually go to college or choosing to go to college. So when it came that opportunity, I decided that if I could get into Stanford and go to Stanford, even though Stanford did not have a strong program at the time, I was like, I want to go to Stanford because it would make me feel good about me. And I'm hanging around a bunch of incredible people. So I went to Stanford and played college golf and was there for 4 years and then finished up my credential, my BA, my BS 2 quarters later, and then hit the professional tour and played professional golf for 4 or 5 years. But there's a lot going on in there, T. So you want me to unpack some things there?
We will, because especially on the mental side, I think both of us can unpack there. So in college, you were playing for Stanford and I was playing for the University of New Mexico. Did we know each other? Or was it later? Yeah, I thought we did.
We did, because you had written me a letter. Or I'd written you a letter.
Okay.
When your dad died.
Oh yeah, thank you. That's
and you mailed the letter back to me.
Did
when my dad died. And I was like, that writing looks really familiar.
Wow, I don't even remember that. You're just talk about your dad in golf. He played a big role in your life.
Oh yeah. So my dad was this amazing, huge personality, just an amazing person. And he decided that he was going to make sure I had every opportunity to be successful in life. And he prepared me on the golf side very well. He put me in situations. He provided the financial opportunities to do whatever I wanted to do. Anything, the sky was the limit when my dad was in the mix. And so he just really pushed me hard. And actually, I'm going to go back to when I was 16 years old, because I at that point was ready to quit the game. I was feeling a lot of pressure when I was 16 years old. And I'm the youngest, and I had a couple brothers that were kind of taking some wrong turns in life. And I was feeling pressure, like I wanted to please my parents and I wanted to do the right thing and make good decisions. And I remember very vividly driving out to the golf course with my mom and getting up the courage and having a voice and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. And I remember speaking that to her. And she just kind of said, well, but you have to do this because that's what your dad expects. And
so
as
were
a
you feeling the
16-year-old,
pressure? Were you
I was
feeling the
feeling,
pressure?
oh, I was feeling so much pressure.
Yeah.
And actually to have the guts and the courage to speak up and say, I don't like this.
Right.
So that was a huge thing in my life. Well, what happened? And here's the deal too. And I always tell people that in perspective, it's like, I didn't know what was going on in my mom's life at the time. Here's my mom having, 5 kids, and 3 of her kids, she has no idea, like their roads are not good, drugs, alcohol, and I'm the youngest. And I think my mom just was just trying to survive in that mode right there. And so, but I didn't realize that until many, many years later when I was doing some reflective writing.
Yeah.
And but that same night, here I told my mom at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't want to play golf anymore. And by 7 o'clock at night, I was telling my dad I want to be the best golfer in the world.
Oh, bless you, bless you, bless you.
So all of a sudden I was going a new direction, and I had a big decision. I mean, not a big decision. I decided that I was going to be the best in the world, which I look back and that was not really a great goal. The better goal would be to be the best that I can be.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot involved there, the mental side of it. So I played most of my what's that word? My professional or my athlete? What is that word? My competitive years. I was a nervous wreck.
But you were so good.
I know I was, but it's like I tell people, I was like, if you do something 8 and 10, 12 hours a day, you can get pretty good at it. So so my dad, here's the deal, yes, did my dad push me? Yes. Could people say he pushed me too hard? Yes, I could agree with that. I could.
Okay.
Now that I've been a parent and I've raised kids, and but I go back and I look and I put things in context, and I say, you know what, my dad was my dad, and his father didn't think he could amount to anything. Wow. That was the storyline he had. He had 3 kids that were just making really bad decisions. And I think he just, in his heart, he didn't want me to go down that road. And he was going to do everything he could to protect me and to get me on the straight and narrow. People can say, oh, parents live their lives through their kids. He may have, but I think he, in his heart, he meant well. What happened? Do you want me to keep going on with?
Well, one thing I do remember is if anyone was practicing late, it was Kathleen, and there she would be one after another, and her dad would be right there. A lot of people could make a lot of assumptions, but I kind of got to know Kathleen, so there was no judgment on me. It was just like, oh wow, her dad's there and he's pushing her. Yeah, I thought he was pushing you, but Kathleen, I guess I didn't stay pro as long as you did, but you were just amazing. You're all American, right? In college.
Yeah.
Let me just say that I'm telling you what looks on the outside, just like normally, if someone's going to look at you and on the outside, I'm talking to our audience, and you never know what's going on the inside. And when we tell our stories, really what we're doing is sharing what's going on the inside and how we came to find our voice, our real voice. Like Kathleen and I could both say, at a period of time, our voice was our golf. And I hated that because I don't know about you, Kathleen, but when I played bad, I felt bad.
Oh, gosh.
I played good, I felt good. And I went down a tragic road of All-American my junior year, going to be All-American my senior year. I don't know if you know this, by the first semester of college golf, my senior year, I was ranked the number 1 is the lowest scoring average. So look at that. And then I go home, my dad dies. And we're talking mental. Do you know where I lost it? On the one place that was so dear to me. On the golf course, on the outside, out the golf course. Teresa's handling it so well. And then on the golf course, a nervous wreck. That's part of my story though. So I'm sharing my story with Kathleen. She probably didn't know that, although she knows my dad died. And then it's like, what happened to T? I was shooting double snowmans, Kathleen. And all of a sudden, I remember the golf coaches when I was playing well, they'd all talk to me and, hey, Theresa, hey, T. And then that next semester, do you know what I experienced? They turned their backs on me. Like, oh, we can't talk to T. So I'm saying all this to, share the mental side. And even how a lot of times that mental side carries over to post golf.
Oh, yeah. definitely.
So is that where you were going with that? I'm just kind of.
Yeah, well, I was gonna, because, you know, I appreciate what you said about, you know, a lot of people just see what's on the outside and they make their own assumptions and they develop their own idea of what's going on in your life. And I didn't know that happened to you, and I didn't realize that your senior year started like that, you know. So we do have, and that's the cool thing too. It's like, it's refreshing to see like you struggle the same stuff. See, when you get away from golf and away from athletics, you're around different kinds of people.
Exactly.
You're not with your like-minded people. But for me, so, you know, I think I learned that golf became like a drug, in a sense that it allowed me to escape.
No doubt.
It was a safe place.
Yeah.
It was a place that I got my identity. It was, and so like you said earlier, it's if your golf was good, everything in life was good. If golf was bad, everything in life was bad. My grades were directly correlated to my golf game, you know. So
Is that right?
my school life and I didn't know how to manage my time. I didn't know how to organize. I knew how to hit a 5-iron. I knew how to hook a driver. You know, I knew how to do all the things on the golf course. But other skills in life, came to life. So what happened is, you know, by the time my dad was diagnosed with cancer in my senior year, and I had a rough sophomore year. I put a whole bunch of pressure on myself, and then I kind of came out of a slump. And then after I left Stanford, my dad was diagnosed with cancer in my final year at Stanford, and then he died 6 weeks later.
What correlation?
And so in the process, I had this idea in my head, and I know I'm not alone, but that if I can just be perfect, then everything will be okay. Do you remember Iron Byron? Iron Byron was this robot that the USGA used to test golf balls and equipment. And I just thought, if I could just make my swing perfect, I could just be like a robot on the golf course. And there I don't have to deal with my emotions and my ups and downs and my mental state. And you know, isn't it funny that you just hold all that inside and you think you're going to do life and handle life with that kind of thinking? But I didn't know what else to do. And so by the time I graduated, and then I went on the golf tour, and Doug and I had gotten married, I mean, honestly, I was exhausted from trying to put up a facade that everything was okay. Wow. When I felt like the world was just going on without me, and I was playing horrible golf.
See, I don't remember that. We're talking professional. I remember when Doug started. Yeah. I remember when you met Doug. I thought, oh, praise God, my friend got married, you know. That's a good one right there. Another story. But wonderful. See, what's interesting is I didn't notice that. So you're right. There's all this internal, and it's flaring up. We're talking golf. It may flare up in your life in a lot of different ways. Those of you who are listening and watching. So just take golf as something that's really dear to you, like your goals. Let's talk about this. That was our dream. How do we pick ourselves up after our dream has crashed and we really lose our voice? I had 2 crashes. I had the crash it was a drug. It's like, I remember trying to get enough money for that last qualifying tour. And then no, I can't. Do you know what happened to me? I want to talk mental case. I had panic attacks on the golf course. So I couldn't I literally had the yips. I'll never forget it. I was playing with Kathy Cook and her brother, professional golfer Tom Cook, was playing in the same group. I'm just talking mental crash, guys. So just, I'm talking golf. You can relate it to it. It was the most embarrassing thing. And I realized if I'm going to have, once again, not dealing with the mentalness of losing my dad, not dealing with my emotions, you know, our soul is made of our mind, will, and emotions. And when those hit trauma, I didn't realize my dad's death was trauma. And we don't deal with that trauma. Guess what? My trigger was on the golf course of all things. And I'm trying to be a professional golf. So anyway, I say all that to say, after that, I'm just talking about losing our voice and losing our dream. After that, I had a wonderful job, 15 and a half years at a Christian radio station. I was an announcer, had my babies, able to bring them early in the morning. Thank goodness it was radio. You know, I could nurse them and no one would know. And after 15 and a half years, I had to retire because my husband's business was booming. Same thing. So my radio career was over. I was lost. Literally, figuratively, I lost my voice again. these are great stuff for you guys to listen in to how we gained our voice. So let's go to you can share a little of your mental mess, but how did it slowly come around when you lost your dream?
Yeah, well, I gotta go back to the scene of the crash. Okay, so
please do.
So when my dad died, and he died 6 weeks after diagnosis, and it ended up being the day before our wedding, and that's how we started married life. And I went into marriage with so many expectations, and honestly, I was a huge mess. And honestly, I don't know if somebody pulled me aside, or maybe nobody did, or they did, and I didn't listen. But when I look back, if I were to speak to my younger self, I'd say, you know what, take a year off. Just take care of your marriage, take care of your mental state, take care of just grieving. And I didn't. I just decided I was just going to push forward, and I was going to, because that's what my dad would want. That's what I just think, to honor my dad. And people say that they're playing for their parent, or they're playing for their grandfather. So I just continued to pursue and just continued to, I imploded. You talked about the yips. I would have dreams that I could not get off of a tee box. I would keep getting it out of bounds.
Yep. I have those dreams too when I'm real stressed right now, just so you know.
Oh,
amazing.
So I remember, I went through, and I realized too what a toll it was taking on my marriage, because I was miserable and I was being hypocritical. I was trying to look the facade on the outside. I was, honestly, I'm a mess. I was a mess. And even thinking about it, it just stirs up and it kind of triggers some things. And definitely I've come so far, but, I didn't know to ask for help, and I didn't know how to handle that. And so I think for 4 years, I just pursued the mini tour life.
Okay.
And tried
That's a tough life too, by the way.
But that's where I met. That's where we got to be really close friends.
So, that's cool.
Nemacolin Woodlands, Pennsylvania. And it was a key dinner that I spent with you.
Yeah, in the Grand Am before we went to dinner. What happened?
Yeah, so you were such an inspiration to me. That letter you sent back to me that I sent to you, and I had a bunch of questions about Christianity and God, and I don't remember what all my questions were that night, but I just remember that night praying to accept Christ as my Savior, and you were on the other end of answering all my questions, because you had grown up in a similar background that I had, and we had a history. Yeah. And you were somebody that I could trust. You were somebody that knew my feelings. You knew what was going on with the whole golf thing and all the mental anguish. And, it was that night. Now, it's interesting because I looked, and then I always loved the little Bible studies that you did on the mini tour and the devotionals and just the fellowship. But it was so fun. I laugh now because I'm like, T and I never really got to hang out together because I kept missing cuts. And if I don't think I ever made a cut. So those of you who
I remember now, you were having a rough time. I got to say, you accepted Christ, but I know so many people watered and put seeds into your life. So I just got to have the fun of seeing you really give your heart to Christ.
You're right. You're right.
I know Joanne is the name I think of. All these people in your life.
There were so many people.
But it was awesome for me, because I loved you. And what's funny is we are so correlating, and I didn't know it. So ladies and gentlemen, we are correlating some of the worst mental strain of our lives, sharing it with you, and you just get to enjoy it. This is fun for me.
Can I tell you about, so when I decided to get off tour, which of course was, it was a great decision for me, but it bothered a bunch of people. A bunch of people who were on my coattails and who were on my bandwagon and kind of supporting me. But, and it really, so for me though, I remember my mom had gotten remarried, and it was 2 years after my dad had died. And we got home from her reception about midnight, and I'd been mulling it, but I was afraid to give the voice to it. And I just said to Doug, I said, I'm not going back out. I'm not doing this tour thing. And we really never had a discussion about it. I just pretty much just said, I'm not doing it, and you can't make me, I was kind of like this because I was hurting so bad, and I was such a mess. And people were just thinking, oh, well, you're just going through, a little spell. But no, to me, I go back to when John Daly won the PGA of America, the PGA tournament. Remember when he was a
journeyman?
Well, yeah, and he had gotten in because Nick Price was going to have a baby.
Yes, right.
So he was, whatever you call that, he was the first in line.
First in line, yeah. The first in line to go in, but he was on
and there he goes from that to winning the PGA. And then, of course, as the years progressed, we got a peek into his life. And he wasn't, I look back and it's not for me to say yes or not, but I felt like, I don't think he was ready for the public stage. Wow. I don't think he was ready for that. And I thought to myself, I was like, people wanted me to be this person that they had perceived me to be. And at the same time, it's like, okay, you've got this wonderful, I look at it like a foil colored Easter bunny, like that Easter bunny with the foil. It was all pretty and looking good on the outside, but on the inside, it's hollow. Yeah. And I felt like I'm a hollow person. I don't know who I am. I don't have a voice. I don't know what my convictions are. And I'm a mess. So I went through a bunch of stuff for about 1.5 years. And then I finally, went to a counselor, and she was ready to just sign me up for meds. And I said, I had brothers that were addicts, and my dad always told me I had kind of an addictive personality. And I tell you what, I'm going to give God a try first. And if he doesn't work, then I'll come back. And I just praise God. That was, 25 years ago or whatever it was.
That's really a testimony. Yeah. So,
I
believe that you can have a breakthrough and it can be for someone else. So right there, I want to stop and say, if you are in that place that Kathleen was and she tried God, I'm not against medicine, but if she tried God, that's your breakthrough. So someone needs to hear that. I just know the Holy Spirit, whether live on this or on our podcast, that's your breakthrough. Please grab it.
Well, and
so how did God work out?
Oh, wow. Well, wait just a minute. I gotta touch on that thing, because honestly, at that time, there weren't a lot of things to distract me from God. It wasn't today. In my world, and maybe in your world too, it was like a 3-lane highway. Nowadays, it's like a 30-lane highway. So there's a lot of things that we can turn to, that like we could turn to a book about God. We could turn to people who talk about God. But to me, I needed to turn to just him and him alone.
That's so good.
And have I done it well at times? No. Have I messed up? Yes. But has he been faithful? Yeah. And that's what it's all about. He has been faithful. And honestly, all the stuff that I've been through, T, and all the mental challenges and the feeling and the mode of depression, because people say, I can't ever believe that you were ever depressed. But I look back and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't change it. I am so grateful for this journey that I've been on, because as I parent and as I parented, I've launched our kids now. If I hadn't gone through all the stuff, I may have continued that, passing on that baton that was the unhealthy baton about not being real, not being authentic.
Wow.
And not having sensitivity to others. And I totally get mental illness stuff, and I totally get that. I'm not against medicine, but I just look at, I had accountability, I had friends, I had community.
You had people speaking life over you, but they spoke not the golf life image they wanted you to be. You have found real connections that maybe even didn't know about the golfing.
Oh, no.
Kathleen.
I've known people, they're like, I didn't know you played golf. They look at Doug and they'd say, Doug, your wife plays golf?
Yeah,
and
my husband says the same thing. He goes, no, she didn't play golf. He goes, I've never seen her play golf. And then if they find out you play golf, they all want lessons. And you're like, that was my last 4 months in the golf world. And I quit cold. Sorry, can't teach anymore. I mean, that was the worst. So my husband's like, what? Of course, your dad was with you. Now look at that, the mental struggle. You're struggling on the tour. You just lost your dad. You just got married. Oh my gosh, how many traumas do you have to have till you just, I mean, you're a miracle today.
No, I truly feel
I know you believe that.
No, I look back and I honestly think you're so busy moving forward, you don't even take a look at the crash scene. You're just kind of moving forward. And I think that's why I can deal with things now, because I've seen, well, God was faithful and God was faithful here and and I've been through, there's been a lot of things that have happened in our life, in my life, in my family's life. And, but I tell people too, I said, you know what? My dad, if I spent so much quality time with my dad got me ready for the rest of my life. Did he instill things about the Lord in me? No, he didn't really go there, but he planted so many seeds that
dedication.
dedication, hard work, perseverance, how to treat people.
Yeah.
How to handle adversity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom was an amazing person too. And I just, I lost my dad at a very young age, and but it helped me to live life with no regrets and to live more intentionally and purposefully.
Wow.
So
you're speaking you're sharing my story. I didn't realize how much we correlated right down to the yips. My goodness. Oh, praise God. Well, let's if you now look first, let me share about you. Come on, share about your family, 2 daughters and a son. Tell us about the joy of being a mom.
Oh, yeah. And
did you see her light up, y'all? You can't see on radio, but she just lit up.
Oh, well, because I look at God's faithfulness, because I chose to stay home with our kids. I chose to stay home, and so many people were kind of pushing me like, well, you should do this and you should do this. And there's honestly, I'll be real, there's that, you want to get that attagirl stuff. You want people to pat you on the back, and you want to be known for, the golf thing. And
identity again.
Yeah, the identity. And so as I'm having kids and raising them at, an older age, God was just so faithful. I mean, I tell people there were footprints going up around my walls because of dying to myself daily to pour into their lives. But I used to tell them, I say, listen, guess what? I don't need to live my life through you. Ooh. I don't need to get on that little bandwagon that parents can sometimes tend to get on because they're trying to make their kids' life better than theirs. But I had so many good things and bad things happen. It's just like, no. I remember when I got pregnant with Laura, she was our first, and I just held out my hand and I was like, she's yours, Lord. She's just on loan, and I want to be faithful. Help me to be faithful. So and has it been a hard road at times? Yes, but honestly, what a gift my kids are to me.
And now you got grandkids?
Yeah, that season's happened a little on the like I was like, oh, let's turn around and kind of get through this little season, and bam, there it is. Now I'm a grandmother, but I love it.
Congratulations, 33 years of marriage. As you and I know, marriage has its high points and its low points, but congratulations for staying with that. I've got to say that, because a lot of people can relate to marriages. Maybe someone right now not doing so well in their marriage. Do you have some encouragement for them?
Yes, I have a lot based on a lot of my failures.
Okay.
And I just was the other day reflecting on something I'd read, and it was talking about when you're having a rough time in marriage, it goes back to like looking at my brokenness and looking at my relationship with the Lord instead of seeking for Doug to fill me or fulfill me or satisfy me or complete me. Yes, will God use your spouse to complete you? But you've heard that thing that marriage isn't to make you happy, but it's to make you holy. And I have learned it has been hard, and I will be totally transparent here and say, you know what, for a lot of my marriage, have I been like resentful at times about Doug? Because it just seems like, well, everything seemed to be going okay. And I've looked at more in the last few years that Doug is an amazing gift. He's an amazing gift from God to me that,
it's good.
Yeah, I think sometimes I've taken my hurt and my pain from whatever season I'm in, whether it be golf or something else, and I've kind of transferred it onto him. And sometimes we do that as spouses. We don't even realize that we're doing that, but you just do it. Yeah. But I realize, I don't know, in the last month or so, there's been a couple of things that have kind of poked me. I can't say specifically what it is, not that I don't want to say it. It's like I can't really put it into words right now, but I know it's the Lord just reminding me that, Kathleen, marriage, it's a gift from God, and it's to glorify God, and you have to live the gospel, and every day you have to die to yourself. And but I think the golf world, even though that was so long ago, there's those little insecurities that
they get poked. You said something really well that I wanted to reiterate. When God brings you your spouse, it's not to meet all your needs. It's really a bonus to your relationship with God. So if you keep your relationship with God as the solid foundation, then having a spouse is your bonus. And if we were trying to get all our needs met from our spouse, it'd be like 2 ticks without a cow. You just can't suck each other dry like that, And
you know what, too, if you don't mind me interjecting here,
please.
Something I just read talked about like your spouse is like a full-length mirror.
Ooh, that's yes. Can I give you another one to that? My husband was talking to someone that later now is his best friend, and it was on like a Skype call, and he was going on and on about his wife, and my husband said, okay, so now I know all about you. And he's like, what? Just like you said, well, you're a reflection of your spouse right now. So
Hey,
we're
listen,
not, and now he's turned around, by the way. Okay.
Can I speak to the person out there that's really struggling in marriage?
Oh, please do. Thank you.
Because you know what? I want to give you hope. But here's where the hope comes from: you being totally trusting the Lord to meet all of your needs, that He is sufficient in every single thing. I will tell you that marriage has not been easy. And have I been the one who's messed it up at times? Yes, definitely. We're both guilty of that. But I think too, because of our personalities, and I've told people, I say, I oftentimes would run into people that I feel like if you had a spectrum from 0 to 10, my husband's at 0 and I'm at 10. And then I'd be around a lot of marriages where maybe the husband's at 6 and the wife's at 8. And so there was a little sense of more connect, like closer. And so I have done a lot of striving unnecessarily to try to figure things out, because I have a husband who is really quiet and doesn't communicate easily. And then I am like that's like my number one skill, is to communicate and talk about what I need and what I like. And you know, I've missed the gift of my husband many times, because I haven't, and you know, you talk about a voice T, and you talk about, and I think in my marriage, I've lost my voice at times, because I'm trying to be somebody instead of just being in Christ.
Huge. Yeah. That's a huge.
And so I just want to encourage you that anybody who's out there, because we can dismiss and say we're not struggling, but you probably, I mean, the chances are, people listening, I've struggled, but I think too, I've missed out on so much because I have not communicated lovingly and graciously. So what happens, I just decide I'm not going to communicate. And then we're just coexisting in the same house. And Doug, as I have gotten better at working on things, because he's opened up a little bit more over the years and I've opened up a little bit more, we're starting to move a little bit closer on that spectrum. And we're appreciating that we're both different. And we're appreciating that, you know, God is doing his work in Doug and God is doing his work in me. And will it be a perfect marriage? Probably not this side of heaven. And that's, but I'm learning that that's okay. But I used to think that it had to be, you know,
a lot of people
flowery and just like the wedding day.
You know, it's funny. I'm the exact opposite. I'm the quiet one, non-confrontational. I had to go through the stage. The first 4 years, he was a jokester, and I think he was serious. Someone's like, Theresa, he's only teasing you. So you carry these things into you, and then you realize there's work involved. You've got to put yourself, you know, I mean, but when it's all said and done, it's like, yeah, God, you did a good job of putting me with my spouse, with David. Thank you, Father. So there's always hope. I always say that, not to, you know, go to the grueling, gory stories, but we're not meant for the gory stories. We're really meant for the glory stories. So is it not like God can take our gore and bring his glory? I'm not trying to be all, you know, we're rhyming and
it's true.
That's great, though. I really appreciate you speaking into that. And you said something also that I think a lot happens with a lot of women being married is they lose their voice in their marriage. You also can lose your voice in your family when you're not putting boundaries up for your kids. I am so passionate about that. So when I'm standing here saying, well, let's help you find your voice and share your voice and market your voice, I had a friend. Actually, she was an upper level mentor. She is a friend. She said, Theresa. And I said, what? She goes, I figured out marketing my voice at home. And I'm like, well, tell me, because I've always believed you can market. And she says, well, I've been following what you said, finding my voice, finding my identity. I can talk in my house now. So she's marketing her voice and get something done by speaking from my identity and taking authority. I just wanted to run around the house because I believe you can find your voice and it affects your household. It affects, hey, you want to do business? Let's talk marketing your voice. I mean, it's everything. And you know what the beautiful thing is about our voices, Kathleen? is they ultimately come from the core of who God made us to be. So our voice, literally and figuratively, is that core. And a lot of times I say, well, what did you love to do when you were little as far as finding your voice? And someone may say, oh, I had so much trauma. Okay, the beginning of your voice is healing that trauma. But I look at my childhood, I love to pretend like I was a preacher. See what I'm saying? I turn over an apple cart because we didn't have those high stairs at that particular house. And I'd turn over the apple cart and it would wobble, and I would like tell everyone they must be saved. My brothers got bored, so I was telling the apple orchards. But look at how many years later I opened my Apple Mac, and now I'm in voiceovers. When I was little, I loved to play with microphones. So yes, I wanted to be a professional golfer, just like Kathleen. I wanted to be a good professional golfer, so I would have a platform for Jesus, right? And then I crashed and burned. And then I think God just chuckled, not in a bad way, because he loves us. Right. For me and you, Kathleen, I said, I'm going to be a voice where you're going to have more than an impact as a mom, as a messenger, as a teacher. Kathleen is a teacher, teaching young people. Think of all the people she is raising up, not just her own kids. That is a voice. That is identity coming forth in the most beautiful way. And guess what? It's not a bad thing. We enjoy what we do. Do you not enjoy teaching? Isn't that just like, give me those kids. I'll slap them around and teach them. I'm sorry.
I love.
You teach fifth grade, right?
Fifth grade. Yep.
That's a tough age, girl.
Oh, no, it's not, because I was at middle school for my first 5 years.
Well, now that's tough. I substituted in Louisiana enough to realize all teachers are underpaid. That is a tough job.
Yeah, but it's a tough, if I was encouraging people, I'd say it needs to be your passion, and make sure that's what God is calling you, because to just get in it for the vacation time, it's a tough profession. I mean, here's the deal. I take it seriously. Every child that is in my care, like you say, I want them to learn to have a voice. I want them to learn what their passions are. I want them to learn how they deal with pain and what maybe are healthier ways to deal. I'm investing into adults. I tell them, I said, you guys, I see you as a 12 or a 10-year-old, whatever, but honestly, I'm looking at you as a 20-year-old because I've been down some roads, and I don't want you to miss the opportunity that God has for you.
I think on behalf of a lot of people listening, we just want to say thank you for your faithfulness as a teacher, because you got to have a passion for that. So thank you. Kathleen, I think we could talk for another hour, but I so appreciate your time. Going down memory roads, that is just too cool.
I love it.
But yet here we are, June 24th, 2001, and God has put us
2021.
Did I say 2021? What did I say?
You said 2001, maybe. Well, it seems like we've been together.
I still
for a
get
while.
that a little. You've got a real friend when you can meet 25 years later and still pick up where you left off. Actually, we talked a couple of years ago, so it wasn't all 35 years ago. So you're awesome. I'm serious. I would love to have you join us again, and we'll think of another topic to really bless people, because I think both of us have gone down some roads. And it's so awesome to share your voice and share. And thank you for speaking into our audience, whether it's the Kingdom Mentor podcast or those watching. So God bless you. You've been listening to the Kingdom Mentor podcast. I sure hope you enjoyed this. This is the Identity series. Always such a joy to bring you voices of influence that can impact your life. So if you've enjoyed this, please, will you do me a favor? Like it. And subscribe and write a review. Why do I say that? Well, when you write a review, more people get to know about the podcast and the hope that they have in their voices. So thank you so much. And remember, say no to striving and yes to abiding, so you can live in the sweet spot of your divine destiny.